Hi, welcome to Control Talk. Now, your smart buildings videocast and podcast for the week ending April 12th, 2020. This is episode 358, where we talk about HVAC and smart building controls and cybersecurity and whatever else. Your co-host and mine, the man, the myth, the legend, the smartest guy in the room, the secret agent man, the sometimes Ralph Lauren fashion model, the undercover agent for the government when they need a really smart secret agent man to work. Kenny Smyers wants to talk about. Welcome to the show, 007.
Okay, Eric, that was the biggest one of all. That's the biggest introduction to date, and all my friends and neighbors and family will harass me over that because they know my personal strengths and weaknesses. But it's been
hang on a second, real quick. I gave you 007. Can you at least go Smyers? Kenny Smyers, shaken not stirred. Can you give us one of those?
Smyers, Kenny Smyers, shaking.
No, he wouldn't say it like that. Come on, man.
Hey,
Come
I know
on.
you're going to edit it out, so I don't have to worry about it.
I'm not editing it out. Are you kidding? This is great. You told me about that show, Magic City, you're watching. I mean, say it the way that guy would say it, right?
Hey, that's an adult special there. That feeds both interest groups. My wife and I, we found that out, and I just, it was amazing how it was like Mad Men. It's like
late 1950s, early 1960s, Miami Beach, the mob, hotels, beautiful women, elegant
Cuba,
people.
Havana, and what the history there is kind of interesting because it was right when you and I, we won't say how old we are, but we knew of it, and then it goes right to the Cuban Missile Crisis. But anyhow, we had 2 inches of snow here in Pittsburgh, maybe 1.5 inches, and like
from talking about hot looking people to snow.
Well, I'm just saying it's a holiday weekend, dude. I mean, it's like we're not in the holiday mode because everything is going against the grain here. We got COVID-19, we got snow on the ground.
We got snow at Easter.
We got distance, social distancing, and it's really hard to get happy
Hang
about.
on a second. You told me that damn groundhog saw its shadow. So what's going on, man? The groundhog must have been social distancing too.
Eric,
huh?
I never got that. I actually went up and saw Punxsutawney Phil. We actually did one of the high schools up in that area, and every time I'd go up there, we just stay overnight, for the project a couple times. And I went to the actual place where they do that thing. It's all staged. It's they got these little cages in the backwoods where Punxsutawney Phil lives. And Punxsutawney, in the town, it has some groundhogs there, but they're fake ones. The real ones up on the hill. So to make a long story short, I never bought into that. I never got it. It's something that, has been, fabled, and Groundhog Day, of course, made it, permanently part of our history. Last ControlTalk, or our Control Trends Awards and the Super Bowl. Remember that day, February 2nd was Groundhog Day. So, I mean, we had 3 big days, or 3 big events in one day. We had Groundhog Day, Control Trends Awards, and Super Bowl. But I mean, come on, that doesn't work. It doesn't mean anything. But I do.
So the next thing you're telling me is Santa Claus is not real and the Easter Bunny is not real, because I'm counting on getting some eggs.
Ouch.
You got grandkids now, Kenny. Come on.
We firmly believe in Santa Claus and the Easter Bunny, hopping down the bunny trail, and we will do some. We have a Zoom meeting for our family. So, you talk about how we're changed and we're still trying to keep, stiff upper lip and chin high and all this stuff. But we got a Zoom meeting tonight. I think it's tonight in the evening, because we get our sister Lori lives in Germany, and my wife has, my wife's German and her relatives. So we have to go to the threshold where it's late as could be for us in the States, in Israel, so that they can be part of it. And it's a lot of fun. You'd be surprised how much fun they have with, when you have 9 or 10 people from the family across the screens, and everybody's got their little household behind them.
Yeah.
It's interesting. So, but
it's cool. Axel had his 5th birthday on Zoom. We had all the family, and like 10 or 15 people came in on Zoom, and we had his cake and we lit the candles, and he had a ball. I mean, it was like, for him, it was really, really fun. So it's the new normal, right?
Well, Ken St. Clair, I think, every time I think of this digital native, I don't think I really understood what was meant by that until these events have occurred. And you see a 2-year-old pick up a phone, answer it, or, call grandma, or call Oma, and they could do it, and they can't even walk, but they can turn it, they can change channels. And anyhow.
Real quick, when Evelyn was younger, when she was like 2, to your point, she would get hold of her mom and she would be calling random people, and her mom's thinking, people call and go, well, hey, did you call me and were you talking like a 3-year-old? Yeah. So, but dude, I think what it leads to, and we've got a great show. So, Kenny and I are just cutting up a little bit because, the world's kind of a serious place right now. We need to add a little bit of lightness to it, but we got a really, really fabulous guest coming on. And, all this new connectedness is leading to opportunities for what Fred Gordy, the cybersecurity expert, would call the black hats, the ones that are going to take advantage of all this additional network traffic to hack into buildings and systems. So we got a great solution coming up for you with that, with our guest. But anything else you want to add, Kenny, before we hop on with our guest?
Eric, I had two very, very exciting pieces of news that I wanted to share with the Control Trends community.
Perfect.
One was National Do Not Call Registry that's coming back. So
all
that
right.
you can go on the internet at www.donotcall.gov or toll free at 1-888-382-1222. And you got to call from the number that you wish to register. But when you do that, you get put on some protective measures from people calling you, trying to telemarket you to death.
Well, listen, Kenny, I just got to hop in and be careful for what you ask for, because, I've gotten so lonely with this quarantine that I actually have conversations with the robot machines that call now. I mean, I look forward to those. I take those calls now, I mean, so.
How does that work for you? How's that working out?
Well, you can pretty much, they never judge you. You can pretty much say whatever you want to say to them. Now, when they give me a real live human, I sometimes I'll take that and not. But so I'm just saying, you might want to wait till the quarantine's over before you do that. But yeah, they got some pretty, and I was thinking about maybe as an extra source of income, Kenny, seeing if I could be one of those voices that they use for that. Hi, this is Eric. Remember me? You're now eligible for a credit card rate.
Hey Siri, say something nice today.
Serious?
Oh, she's not talking back. She's shy. This is I'm not sure I understand. And you can play games now. To your point about having a conversation with artificial intelligence, this thing here, I'll be talking, all of a sudden they'll talk to me, and then I'll say, don't, I didn't summon you to call. It's like a genie in the digital bottle, but how it's monitoring our conversations and just out of nowhere starts talking to us.
Well, and I got to tell you, I get up every morning and I say, Siri, on the wall, who's the smartest and most handsome of all? And it usually goes Ken Smyers, of course.
Yeah, right. Anyhow, the second just absolutely delightful piece of information I wanted to share with the Control Trends community is that not very often do you open the mail from the gas company. They're always trying to vie for some sort of a provider change or some sort of change. But they're giving me an advance notice of a proposed gas cost rate change. Now, normally that's going to be, they're going to up it up, 2%, whatever. This one here floored me. I mean, it says to all our customers, the People Natural Gas Company is filing a request that might not get approved to decrease your natural gas rates effective October 1st, 2020 by 2.5%. So how many times has it happened where the gas company is going to give me heads up that they're going to lower my gas price?
Well, you know what, Kenny Smyers, you better thank the virus for that, because, all these cars and airplanes and ships that are not going, I mean, the oil industry and the gas industry is hurting. So I'll take the 2% to your point. But dude, that's good news. Well, listen, we've had a little bit of fun here. Let's get to our guest, Kenny, because this is some really, really good stuff. How about introducing him?
Eric, I'd love to. We have Steve Fay from Totem Buildings with us. Incredible story. Steve's been in the industry a long time. He is a trusted partner, and he's going to talk to us about Totem Buildings and Totem Trusted. Welcome to the show, Steve.
Welcome, Steve.
Great to be here, gentlemen. It's we're a new company. A number of people have certainly probably heard my name before more than once because of my long-time participation in this industry, but undoubtedly they haven't heard much, if anything, about Totem Buildings. So I appreciate the opportunity to give you guys the story about what we're doing right now.
So Steve, look, you're right, man. Kenny and I know who you are. I think anybody in the controls industry that's been in there for a while knows who you are. But hey, real quick, how about walking our audience through some of your exploits in the controls industry? How did you get into the industry? And you've had some pretty lofty positions, and then I want to hear why you got involved with Totem.
Sure. Yep. Absolutely. So it goes back to the early 80s when I joined at that time a startup, Andover Controls Corporation. And if you if you've been in the industry long enough to know who Andover is, they essentially started the revolution of direct digital controls. And so all during the 1980s, as we replaced pneumatics and traditional control systems with microprocessor-based systems, Andover was really on the forefront of that. And I enjoyed a pretty lengthy career there, starting out just as a sales guy, moving up to head their marketing during the early Infinity days, and ultimately running their systems business all during the 90s. And Andover enjoyed some very good success. They went from just a startup to over 100 million in sales by the time I left. Then from there, I actually went into another startup. There's a familiarity here to my storyline, but some ex-Andover guys had the vision for coming out with a new way to solve the access control video surveillance challenges, and Tyco Fire and Security helped fund that effort during the early 2000s. Ultimately, it didn't materialize the way we had all hoped, and I landed at Tritium in 2004. And so started running their sales. And then, if you know the history around Tritium, Honeywell bought the company in 2006. I became president at that point and ran the company all the way through 2012. We enjoyed some very heady growth years during that 6-year period, and I was really thrilled to be a part of all of that.
Yeah,
You know,
well, let me hop in real quick and
very
say something.
successful.
Sorry for interrupting.
Yeah.
Let me hop in and say something real quick. You did a hell of a job at Tritium, and you know, we were around and doing Tritium and that when you were running that Tritium at that point. You just did a great job. So I'm not sure our industry has acknowledged you enough for the fantastic job you did with Tritium there. And but like all great startups, you got, you know, it sounds like you're the type of guy who wants to find the next big thing, and it sounds like you track trends to a certain degree, because if you look at your career path so far, it's been the trends, and obviously cybersecurity is the area that we're all looking at right now. So after Tritium, Totem, right?
What happened, right? So when I left, you know, Richmond's not the capital of building controls for sure once you get past Tritium. So I wanted to stay local. That's where my family is. And so I ended up working for an IT services business as the president of the company. And why that's important is 30 plus years in building controls teaches you how to control buildings. It doesn't teach you anything about how to secure those same systems you're installing. And running an IT services business where we had a private cloud and we're managing corporate networks immediately brought me face to face with the challenges around cyber threats, because they're 24/7. Our private cloud was being literally attacked every hour of every day, and the systems we had to put in place to protect those systems were significant. The money that we had to spend to do that. So that really woke me up to how severe the threat really is. And when I left that company a couple of years ago, I started doing some consulting work for Intelligent Buildings, which I know you guys know the folks at Rob Murkison and Tom Shercliffe well, and they've been on your Control Trends podcast a number of times. They had started to do, as part of their business, some cybersecurity assessments, and that's where the connection was made to ultimately start Totem Buildings. It was through the work that Intelligent Buildings was doing, and when I saw how they were trying to develop some software to really facilitate the process of managing cyber in buildings, I said, guys, you're a great strategic house, you're a great consulting company, but you're not a software company. And I think if we combine our resources here, I think we've got something that the industry really needs. Let's go do it. So we founded and started Totem basically in January of 2019, and as a completely separate company, and we're out here trying to offer a risk management platform for this industry.
And it's a very timely, you know, the time that we're in right now. I mean, we're in this COVID-19 thing, but the number of ransomwares and attacks, like you said, that are going on, it's exponential now. So our industry needs this. It's a very important product that you're bringing and service. And I think the beginning of it, it's a novel idea, but tell us, like Totem, in my opinion, is an Indian village. They put a totem pole out there, and it was to ward off angry spirits, means, bad spirits. So, but that's a very symbolic point because of
Yeah.
what it represents. Tell us about that.
Yeah, so every business needs a name, and so you go in the back room and you dream up what to call the company, and you're right. We chose the word totem in part because of the idea that the reason the Indians, Native Americans build totems in part is to ward off evil spirits. And what are we trying to do? We're trying to keep the cyber criminals from getting into our control systems and causing havoc, which I've got if it's okay, I've got a little presentation that goes in a little more detail around the problem we're trying to address and then how Totem solves it.
Great.
So
Perfect.
I'll go ahead and share the screen here,
Excellent.
and
Excellent.
we'll take a look. So as I mentioned already, we started the company a little over a year ago, and we're a risk management software as a service platform. So as a business, we're a software company, and that's point number one. Point number two, the way the software is getting to market is through Totem, what we call Totem Trusted Partners, and these are the businesses that are participating in this call right now. It's the systems integrators and other types of controls contractors in the industry that we want to turn into Totem Trusted Partners. I think in any new company, in any company, you should answer the question, why are you in business? Not just what do you do? And what's in orange here, we expect control systems to work well. We spent 30 years optimizing them and managing energy and comfort and safety. But the industry has got to wake up to the fact that we must also do this securely, because historically security was through obscurity. These systems are no longer obscure. They're being found. And if you follow the statistics about the Internet of Things, the number of networked devices that are going to be available through the kind of work that we do is going to dwarf by orders of magnitude what is today servers and laptops and PCs. So we've just got to, as an industry, wake up to the fact that security has got to be as important as the control itself. So to that point, here's some facts for you to really get your head around. What are we seeing out there? Well, Kaspersky, who's a big developer of antivirus, anti-malware software, last year said almost 40% of building automation systems are now being affected by malicious cyber attacks. One of our partners recently, around Christmas time, had 5 of their BAS servers all get hit by ransomware. Harvard Research did a study a couple years ago on publicly traded companies and found that 60% of the attacks are coming from IT systems, are traced to IT systems from the suppliers and third parties such as contractors. That's the target breach. They hit a contractor called Fazio, who was an HVAC contractor, and they got that company's credentials, and that's how they got into the IT system. And so these are just some really good examples to help you understand what's really happening out there. So what are the risks? They can affect any type of control system in the building, but we're talking about life safety incidents. Think about what happens if you get into a video surveillance system. You don't want people getting into the cameras, obviously. Productivity, when the systems are down. Those 5 servers I talked about that get hit with ransomware, it was 2 weeks to get that system back up and operational again. That's not uncommon. Equipment replacement. If they get in and destroy a chiller, think about the cost of that. The OT systems are often connected to the IT network, so now you have a way to jump off and get to the company data. So these are just some of the ways to understand what the risks are to the building owners. The interesting thing about all this is that it's the number one issue is getting everybody involved here to behave differently. 80% of the problems are because Basic processes, policies, and procedures, and simple mistakes are being made. It's not so much the malicious stuff. It's how what can each of us do to conduct our business in such a way that we're preventing the bad guys from getting in, because we're doing the things that need to be done. And this is the fundamental challenge. I think that I know we have as an industry is to change the way we do things. Everybody here on this call can relate to, you know, a network diagram, and so I'm starting there. So a typical control system has IP controllers, has a variety of downstream controls as well, and they're often connected to a server. So what are the risk areas? Well, has the system been properly set up? So on that network, is the data being encrypted, as an example? But there's lots of configuration details. Do I actually know what's on my network? You know, NASA had an interesting problem very recently, last year. Somebody had put a Raspberry Pi device on the corporate network because one of the engineers was doing some, you know, some independent investigation. The hackers found the device, and they were able to download the Mars rover data. So knowing what you have on your network is very important. Obviously, patching your software for security patches, critical. On that server, do you have antivirus, anti-malware software running? Do you have other kinds of software? The number one reason ransomware hits control systems is because they're using that server for something other than the application. And that's how the malware gets in there, and that's what causes the ransomware attacks to occur. As I mentioned, you can jump onto the corporate network off that same server, and then you're talking about the data leaving the building. How is it leaving the building? Is it encrypted? Do we have control over the users that are coming in? All good questions. Because if the system is exposed to the internet with a public-facing IP address, anybody can look it up on two websites, either Shodan or Census, and now they know that that server is out there, and all bets are off. So, and that's what the bad guys are doing, is they're looking for the easy way in, and we can't make it easy any longer. But it goes beyond that. It goes to the techs working for the contractors. It works for the facilities engineers who want to work remotely, because we all want to work remotely. But if we're not managing our credentials well, if we're not making sure that our laptops have good malware protection on them, then we are making these systems vulnerable to cyber criminals.
Hey, Steve, real quick. You know, this is key now, because I think part of what this virus thing is doing is I think more and more people are going to be working remotely. So I think this is a key piece here. If people working remotely, there's more opportunities for the bad guys to get in.
Yep, exactly. Because you know, we're in a new era suddenly, and I don't think this new era is going to go away, and it's going to actually become the new normal, where buildings that may have required you to come on site are now going to want you to work remotely for no other reason, health concerns. And so if we're going to intensify the amount of remote work, then we for sure need to manage our credentials and our access into the building and make it as secure as possible. This is a fundamental issue in the industry right now. So I want everybody to appreciate the fact that in the IT world, there's clear responsibility. You typically have a CIO who's responsible for the hardware and the network, and you typically have an information security officer who understands the risks to the organization. And they take this seriously. Last year, the US spent over $124 billion on cybersecurity to protect IT systems. You can't find a number for OT systems. It's so small. So fundamentally, there's two unanswered questions in the industry. Who owns the problem and who should pay for it? So we're at the beginning of a journey here, but we just need to recognize that we're all in this together. And that's what it's going to take. It's a team effort. Manufacturers of the control systems need to build products that are inherently more secure. As you probably know, BACnet's coming out with a secure version of BACnet IP. That's a good example of that. System integrators need to understand they've got to run their businesses using best practice policies for cybersecurity. And the owners, they've got to ultimately take responsibility and decide where on this triangle the ownership's going to live, and set the policies, set the expectations with their suppliers. So what exactly is Totem doing in all of this area? Well, there's a process that's based on proven principles for how to identify and then manage risk. It starts with an assessment. If you've got an existing building with existing systems, the first thing you got to know is what's there. That's the system inventory piece. And you need to understand and go look at how it's configured. Is it configured correctly? And I can tell you in most cases, the answer is no. And then of course, how is it networked? When you go through this process, you're going to find a lot of gaps, and then you need to remediate them to make that system now the way it should be. Am I done? Definitely not. The thing about cyber, it's an ongoing challenge. It's not a one and done kind of problem. The software changes, people change, the threats change. So it's an ongoing management issue. And two of the things that are really critical is, one, that you always have a good current backup available, and that you're continuously monitoring for change and managing accordingly. What exactly is Totem doing here? We're capturing the information about the inventory, the buildings, the systems, the vendors, the policies. We're making sure that the versions are where they should be, that the users, we know who the users are. We're making sure the encryption's been set up, and even knowing, is the control system properly located? You know, a little story that Tridium told me recently is somebody came into a building, and the owner was complaining the system wasn't working. They said, go look at the web supervisor. They went into the control room. There was no web supervisor. Literally, the criminal walked into the building, walked into the control room, which was apparently not locked, just literally picked up the physical hardware and walked out of the building. Location matters. Of course, the system connectivity, what's the network like, what's on it, the communications, the traffic patterns, and of course, the encryption. I can't stress enough how important backups are. When you have your only backup on the same server as the application, when ransomware hits, you're out of luck. You don't have a backup. You need to have a secondary backup somewhere, and whether that's the IT department doing it for you, or in our case, Totem, we offer that as a secondary service. But it's critical you have an available backup, because when ransomware hits and you have a good backup, you can get back online very quickly. Otherwise, it can be weeks before you're returned to operations. And then the continuous monitoring involves getting real-time data out of these systems, whether it comes from the OT systems themselves, the network, or any other types of products that you might be using. So Totem's created a standard based on an industry standard. So we're looking and signing up Totem Trusted Partners right now. And what's that trust based on? Well, the government organization NIST created a standard many years ago for the IT industry, and it's a way of thinking about how to secure systems. It involves core principles, and because of our connection with intelligent buildings, the methodology we've developed has been proven in over 1,000 buildings worldwide, so we know this works. So where does it begin? For us, it begins with a basic audit. We ask more or less 30 questions that any contractor can answer. They're obvious. That we tell you what the policy is associated with each question, and 30 minutes or an hour later at most, you're done and you get a score. So what's your score going to be? In all likelihood, it's going to be a D or an F. As an industry, we're just not doing what needs to be done. But what we've learned is every question we ask, some things are easy to fix, some things aren't so easy. Like if you have an old control system that can't be serviced anymore, that's, you know, a rip and replace is expensive. So what do? Well, we tell you right on the spot what you can do to improve your score. So we analyze how you answered, and we tell you, hey, here are the low-hanging fruit, do these 7 things, so we can take you from an F to a C. We give you essentially a punch list with specific recommendations on how to address each item. And that's your starting point. Now, we're a new company, and we're looking to be able to bring in all sorts of other information into the audit process to supplement it. So one of the things we're coming out with in the very short term is a driver right into the Niagara system that will actually answer about half of those questions. And the key thing is, if you install this driver, as things change, you're going to get immediate notification, which is really terrific. But whether you want to add network scanning or you want to have a secure remote communications, our intention is to have interfaces to each and all of these systems and bring it all together. Bring it all together how? Into a common dashboard that's automatically built for you, and it tells you to what extent you're in compliance and what extent you're not in compliance, and lets you drill down and understand where your problems are by control system, by the installing contractor, and geographically. Customers can build their entire portfolio of all their buildings however they want, and they all operates off this common dashboard. So I'll take a breath and let you guys ask a question at this point.
Well, Steve, I've seen your presentation. This is my third time, and of course, we have a company interest in the Totem buildings solution and certificate, or the Totem Trust program. In fact, our principal believed that everybody in the corporation should take this course to get their skills, their professional skills, up to date and have answers, because this is never going to go away. It's now, as the cybersecurity confronts operational technology, which is our domain, we're expected to be domain experts and be able to respond with a certain level of knowledge and actions that we could recommend. And we see this Totem building cybersecurity as a very strong measure to recommend.
Well, yeah. So, Steve, if I'm getting this right, it's really a couple of things you're offering. One of them is you're offering this course, which I think to Kenny's point is great. I think if you're in the industry, you've got to go through a course to get educated. But to me, it also seems like the other thing you're offering is an ongoing, documentation platform, if you will, that will do some stuff automatically for you. But it creates a paper trail. It allows the building owners you're servicing to have confidence in what you're doing, because you've got the documentation and the best practices. Is that pretty much it?
Yeah, in simple terms, we would like our partners to be able to quickly put a new project in, run the 30-minute audit, literally have a report that they could hand to the owner or make part of the as-built that says, on day one, when I put this system in, it all checked out from a cyber perspective. We all are comfortable putting in the as-built documentation that says they complied with the spec for the control algorithms, for the point list, all that stuff. But where is that document that says, hey, it was also set up securely? And so that's what we're trying to get this industry to add in and just change their practices simply in a simple fashion that everybody can understand and feel comfortable and confident in.
Also, too, I remember, Steve, real quick, the aside was you can't really stop cybersecurity, but you can send it somewhere else. I mean, you can't stop cyber attacks. You can defend yourself to the best of your ability and ensure the rest, but you basically are just showing a hardened, that you have something there, because there's so many more targets downstream that these bad guys can go look for, these Autobots can find. But if you have these in place, this is going to give you a measure of defense, correct?
Correct. Yeah. But, as I mentioned, there's the sort of the assessment phase, and then there's the management phase. And I have to stress, as an industry, we need to recognize that this is, you put a new system in, it all working great, it's all secure, you got to stay on it. You can't stop, because you're going to have people changing. You got to manage those individuals and their credentials. You don't want those credentials to get inadvertently in the hands of the wrong people. Systems come and go. Who's actually making sure that the new system that's there has been also set up correctly and isn't becoming the new point of attack? So there's an ongoing management issue here that we need to address if we're really going to properly secure. But I wanted to also take a few minutes because of what the world we're living in right now, and tell you a little bit about what we're calling our Totem Trusted Plus Partner Program, because we need to figure out what to do right now in this COVID economy that we're all subject to. So let me take this presentation. This is a lot shorter, but yeah, I think it's really important. So, we did a little research to look at how others think about the problem we're living in, and McKinsey, who's a big consultant, as we all know, felt that, a possible scenario was that there's going to be delayed recovery mid Q2. So mid Q2 is May. We all hope that's true, but it could be a lot worse. So we're all facing worldwide this problem. So what does it mean? Well, we're living in a new time here, and we're seeing buildings going through diminished occupancy, where a lot of us are working remotely, if not all of us. We're having to come to grips with how to conduct ourselves in a healthy fashion. And what are the bad guys doing? Well, they're ramping up their activity. This is our new reality. How can Totem help here? So we've put together what we call a 90-day business continuity plan. And it starts with the idea of become Totem Trusted. Now is more than ever is a time to get your business in order from a strategy standpoint, because you're being affected by this. In some cases, your jobs are being put on hold. Other cases, you're not allowed to go on site. What do? Well, we've got some tools here to help you that. From an execution standpoint, we will get trained. Great time to get trained on our tool. It's all online. And then finally, there's messaging. So what do you say to your employees, and what do you say to your customers? And we want to strengthen your ability to go out and deliver those messages. So we've converted all of our training to online, and it can be done, it's basically an LMS system, so you can do it whenever you've got the time, day or night. And it's what we call the control system audit, as you see here in the middle of the screen. But we've added 4 other classes that have to do with strategy, health and safety, communications, and remote work. And these are all free. So we're trying to make this really accessible to the broader community, given the situation we're in right now.
That's awesome, Steve.
I told you a little bit about the audits, so I don't need to explain that anymore, but that's what you're going to get trained on. What we've added, though, is we've added a health survey. And this comes with a product with no extra cost, but basically, this is something any one of your employees can take, and you can send a copy of this audit right to your building owner to assure them that, you're doing what the government's suggested as a safety protocol before you go on site. And we hope that this will give both you as a contractor and building owners the confidence that you're taking this thing seriously, and you're not going to show up with somebody who's been exposed to the virus recently. And so that just is part of the package. And to help communicate, we've even got some messages you can send out to your customers to tell them what you're doing. But the key thing is we want to make this as accessible as possible. So to become a partner, there's a sign-up fee. We decided for the next 90 days, we're not going to bill you for that fee. It's not a lot to begin with, but it's real cheap right now. The demo licenses that come with that partner fee, there's a certain quantity. Normally it's 20 licenses per partner. We're saying audit as many systems and buildings as you want between now and the next 90 days at no charge. The training fee is normally $200 per student. We've taken 50% off. The COVID courses I talked about are free, and there's even some special third-party videos that we have a contract with a company called Ningio. They're all free. And because of today's presentation, I'm going to cut that $200 fee by 75% if you sign up in the next 2 weeks. All you need to do is hit the link that you see here, and you type in the word control trends for the billing information, and we'll bill you $50 on your credit card, and there you
Wow.
go.
Steve, thanks so much. That is such a generous offer. Thank you very, very much. That's awesome.
Yeah, this is impressive. And so the thing that you say about ongoing, how you do the assessment, that's very important. That's your first step. But the managing, tell us a little bit more about the managing. I mean, you went into the personnel, how personnel change and their badge becomes, you know, they're no longer employees. But what other, you know, the managing involves commitment from the, you know, from the stakeholders of the company, both the company providing the services and the company receiving the services. How do you keep those people engaged? Is there any kind of a feedback loop, or, you know, how do you get it sticky to them?
So as a systems integrator, it's essential that the leadership buy into this, and this becomes a way of life.
Right.
This is not a one-time thing. Just like you have standards for how you you know, program your systems and design systems and the products you use, you now have to have standards for how you secure the systems. So it just becomes second nature. And there are policies that if you're running an IT organization, that becomes standard. For example, every time an employee joins the company or leaves the company, there's somebody who administers those users. So the whole idea of managing users or administrating users is not being done for the most part across our organization. So this is just one example of how things fundamentally need to change. Because if I go into a control system today that was installed 2 years ago, I pretty much guarantee it's going to have some users who are no longer with the organization, but those credentials are still living in that system. That's very, very common. And one of the things hackers do is they find credentials from a similar person. People have the habit of using the same username and login a lot. And so they just try stuff because it's out there. So managing your users is, I can't stress enough how important that is. Backups, do a one-time backup, great. I just, you know, added another system to the, you know, brought another chiller or another air handler on last week. Did I update my backups? I don't know, did you? So as a policy and procedure, you've got to have really disciplined procedures in place to make sure you have current backups.
Stephen, I think I can almost see like a totem champion inside every organization, that you have somebody, the whole organization can benefit from your program, but you could really and truly identify somebody who becomes your totem champion. And then to me, the cybersecurity, and Eric and I had the opportunity to, you know, talk with some other people about how we have to change behavior. And we're thinking, you know, you got gas, electric, water. This cybersecurity almost becomes a utility. It's like the fifth or sixth utility in a building, in an organization. You expect this, you pay for this. You should also pay for this because it should be so important. It's going to rise through the threats and the consequences. But if people take an active step forward this, and they actually provide this in their budget, like a utility bill, like they pay for, again, gas, water, and electric, you got to pay for cybersecurity so that you protect yourself and yourself and your customers. But and I've said this before to you, so don't smile before I say it, but this has got to impact insurance. I mean, insurance company has got to take note of this, that if you've got a guy or a company or an organization that has these measures and have taken these standards driven by NIST and expanded and enhanced for our industry, that's a significant, you know, thing that you've done. It's an investment you made, and there should be a reward for that, shouldn't there?
Yeah, absolutely. So we're having conversations right now with a number of insurance companies. The industry, from an insurance perspective, is also largely ignorant of what's going on here, and their policies they've not thought through how they're going to handle claims coming for breaches to control systems. They need to, but to your point is the cost of the policy should be reduced if I'm a Totem trusted partner and I'm putting and I'm a building owner and I'm putting in Totem trusted systems. You know, we do that for our cars, for our homes. Put a security system in the home, you get a deduct on your homeowner's policy. We are pushing for that very outcome in the insurance industry. But what we need right now is to get Totem adopted into the industry. Helped us because there is no standard, so we've created a de facto one. But the more we can get adoption, the easier it's going to be for us to get the insurance companies to offer really good programs for both contractors or systems integrators and for building owners.
Makes a lot of sense. Steve, in addition to, you pointed out two things a minute ago that IT people maybe don't know about control system or don't pay attention to, one of them being that, when somebody's working on the control system leaves, their credentials need to be canceled. The second being, are you backing up when you add a new piece of equipment? Are you backing, getting, current backups? What are the things in your experience, because you've looked at it from both the control side and the IT side, what are the things do IT people not really understand and know about control systems vis-a-vis security risk, cybersecurity risk?
Yeah. So IT is used to having, I'll call it generic hardware. So a server is a server is a server to them. And the tools that they have to determine what's the health of the operating system, is it patched correctly, what software is on that server, all that is consistent, and so they can buy a software package that can monitor those servers and manage those servers remotely, and it all works great. When they try to take those same tools and apply them to control systems, all hell breaks loose. I didn't talk about it earlier, I'll bring it up now. A major media company up in New York who had just put a brand new system in with over 10,000 controls in it from 20 different manufacturers, the IT department went ahead and did a network scan of all those devices, thinking they were looking for vulnerabilities, and they were looking for open ports. Well, control systems aren't designed, if you know about IP addresses in a server, there's potentially 65,000 ports that could be open. When you scan a server, you do it rapid fire. When you do that to a controller, you can brick it. They bricked 6,000 of the 10,000 controllers.
Oh my gosh.
So great intentions. It just points out the fundamental ignorance that exists between the IT world and the OT world. And so one of the things Totem's doing here is we're educating not just the OT industry, we're also trying to educate the IT industry to understand there's fundamental differences. And we have great documentation from NIST to support my contention or the example I just gave you. So the CIOs and the CISOs need to understand that our world is got lots of differences, and it's not just how you can use off-the-shelf tools. It's the fact that our equipment runs things. Yeah. We're running chillers. You don't just go take these things offline and decide to patch them at a certain time of day, because you could run the risk of taking the building offline. Right. So you've got to deal, it's a completely different reality, and both sides need to understand that.
So Steve, let me ask you a question. Would it be fair to say that one of the things Totem does is build a bridge from the building control world into the IT world?
Yeah, absolutely. That's part of our mission statement, literally, is to bridge the gap between the IT and the OT world to really solve this problem, because that's what it's going to take.
Right. So I could almost argue to the fact that again, if you're a building owner, because I can sort of see how the conversation goes down. Some CEO or whatever goes, "Hey, we need to have this Totem protocol," and the IT department's go, "Well, we really don't need that. We've got our processes already." Because it seems like part of what makes a strong system is you've got processes in place, and if they work, you don't mess with them, right? And what I hear you saying, the message for the IT people is, yeah, the control systems are a different critter, and you're going to normalize that process, but Totem sort of needs to be part of the IT people's process, part of their tool belt.
Yeah, and that's why we intentionally approach this from a principle standpoint. Look, we get the principles for how to secure things. We're adhering to the principles. The actual practices, however, need to be tailored specifically to this industry. You can't make the shoes you buy for your IT department work for the OT. Just, it's a different world.
Got it. Got
Steve,
it.
This timing and this offer you're making is exceptionally generous and timely and important. But we have a lot of strengths in our industry, the HVAC and building automation industry. Are you getting good feedback from the vendors and OEMs and the Niagara partners that we have out there? I mean, I know you're still in the up climbing uphill on market wise, but I mean, this has to be pretty much like just automatically accepted by most of the people that hear this, right?
Yeah, it's been very encouraging. We really started actively marketing in January. We've had several major signings already, and we've had a lot of interest. What's obviously this COVID thing has made it difficult to actually talk to customers face to face. So we're, like everybody, we're relying on remote communication. So,
Sure.
but you can see why we put this program, this special offer together, because we're at a point as a company, we've got something that's ready to go. We just need to get these partners going, and we really appreciate the opportunity to be on this podcast today with you guys.
Super.
Oh, absolutely. Well, Steve, walk our community through. They're interested. I think you've got a compelling product here. I think, to Kenny's point, it's something it's not about wanting it. It's something you probably really need. So they're interested. Walk them through the process of getting signed up. I mean, we obviously got the Control Trends offer, but past that, what would happen next?
Yeah. So if they follow the link, take the training. Okay, we're going to be notified, of course, and then we're going to put a partnership agreement in front of them, we're going to need them to sign the agreement with the understanding that 90 days later, if they don't consider this a good deal, we all move on. Okay, so there's a low risk to it, but for confidentiality reasons, for legal reasons, we need to have an agreement in place. I think that only makes sense. But we understand that it's a challenging time in which to actually conduct normal business. So we're trying to be accommodating as we can. But yeah, so that's the process. And so we would go through and have a session like this individually with each organization, explain how the program works, the expectations, and then hopefully get them going, because right now is a great time to take the training. We're trying to make that as easy as possible, and then from there, by July, this all should sort itself out, and everybody can decide what makes the most sense.
Very, very cool. Well, listen, Steve, I can't tell you how much I appreciate you coming on the show today, and especially the great offer you've given us. Will you please stay in touch with us? We'd like to have you come back on maybe about 2 or 3 months. Let's catch up with you. We're talking with Steve Fay from Totem. Be sure to go to the website. Take advantage of this offer. It's a great offer. Thanks again, Steve.
Okay, thank you.
Well, Kenny, I don't know about you, man. Great offer from Steve Fay. I'd be really surprised if every organization did not take advantage of at least getting their people trained on cybersecurity.
Well, too, Eric, is it's so affordable that any company, large and small, could participate this and get the benefit of that 90-day training. In other words, it's very serious. We know of 3 additional issues where companies got hacked. Again, don't put any USB devices in your computer, especially your company computer, that you didn't personally know assuredly where that came from, and you bought it yourself, opened up the seal, because in 2 cases they were from USB thumb drives, and it's not going to go away. So at some point in time, you just have to say enough is enough. Get tough, get strong, get some insurance, get some smarts. Take this seriously, and then if you could do it affordably, that's all the better.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, a great offer from Steve. Encourage you to take advantage of that. And speaking of great offers, Ken, our friend Phil Zito is offering some discounts on his building automation controls training. We have a link on the Control Trend site. Be sure to check that out. Phil is graciously reducing his rates for his online training during this period, right?
Oh, it's remarkable. I got involved in it myself. You're never too experienced and never too old or whatever to review and to whatever. Because again, like even with Niagara, people don't realize, and we talk about cybersecurity, you got to manage it in the future. It's not a one and done thing. It's an ongoing process. And those people out there in the Niagara world, that Niagara is introducing some provisioning and some bulk deployment that is going to make a lot of sense to you. James Johnson is going to be doing a Tritium talk here coming up. We'll have a post on that to give everybody a chance to see that. And you don't want to miss that stuff because it's not static. It's so important to keep your skills and your documents, your source documents updated because things have changed. If you haven't looked in your cupboard for a year or two, you got some skeletons in there that you need to throw away and put some new ones in there because it's moving. It's moving fast.
Right. And I think most of us, or a lot of us, have the opportunity now with the, the quarantine to really sharpen the saw and learn some new skills. And it's really cool when you see people like Steve Fay and Phil Zito and Tritium coming out with these online courses that you can do at home. So congrats on that. We got several other, well, go ahead.
We do. To your point, Distech has training going on. LinkSpring, we probably have another post coming up there real soon that they're offering a free 90-day trial period on their Niagara front-end software. Mark Peacock sent us some marketing information that will get posted here. So you're right. People are really trying to keep everybody focused. And when we come out of this funk, that everybody's going to be surged, go into a surge mode, and that fortune favors the prepared. So let's get prepared.
Well, they do. So when we come out of this thing, we're going to come out. We're going to be smarter. All our garages are going to be clean because that's what everybody's doing. All the gardens are going to be planted, and we might all be a little bit overweight too, because I don't know about you, but I'm hitting the Oreos pretty heavy these days. So somebody's going to have to do an intervention if I keep doing it. So.
Well, there's no walking like there used to be. I mean, I was getting 10,000 steps in every day. And now I'm down to like 5,000, 6,000. You're right. So there will be consequences. There will be consequences.
Well, listen, EasyIO also has some great training. A special shout out to our friend Gina Elliott. She talked to her the other day. She's up in North Carolina, rocking and rolling. Troy Harvey and the team at Passive Logic's coming on. Everybody is doing some really great stuff. So I think we're going to come out of this smarter, faster, better, more agile. And with that, Kenny Smyers, special thanks to our guest, Steve Fay from Totem and his generous offer. And I will say to our community, remember, be bold, stay in control, take an online course and learn something. And if you're in Pittsburgh, go play in the snow with Kenny Smyers today.
Indeed, Eric.
Indeed, Kenny Smyers will keep you busy.
Yeah, maintain a social distance.
All right, buddy, there we go.